Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
There's an efficient way to get caught up on a lot of news. It's called The Seven from The Washington Post. It's a newsletter and podcast. Whether you're reading or hit play, you get 7 stories you need to know, and you can consume it all in just a few minutes. The Seven is out every weekday morning by 7 a.m. Eastern. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'm one of the writers, and I host the show. Find The Seven podcast wherever you're listening. The newsletter link is waiting for you in the show notes.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest, building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
Well, it's later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
I don't know why we, and I mean we as a country, are always in a rush. We didn't get here overnight in regard to Iran, and the final result won't be revealed today, this week, or this year. As of this moment, there is supposedly a ceasefire, only announced by President Trump and neither confirmed by Israel nor Iran. And there have been some conflicting reports of even other missiles fired. So we're going to just take it for what it's worth. And let's say, for the sake of argument, there is a ceasefire in place. A ceasefire is always tenuous and delicate. Iran may not break it, but one of its proxies, like Hamas, may not honor it, or Hezbollah. Foreign policy, though, by social media is not a thing. It really isn't. And negotiations, true negotiations, take time, often months. Last week, our president was demanding, quote unquote, unconditional surrender. Today, he literally said, quote, God bless Iran, close quote. That's a wild swing of the pendulum, meaning all this could change at a moment's notice for something that has been baking since 1979. We keep hearing that date, 1979. President Trump has said that Iran's nuclear capabilities have been, quote, obliterated. Historically, that isn't how missile strikes or attacks work. But let's say that's true. There's nothing left to negotiate, threat neutralize, one would think. Don't be surprised, though, if we found out later that Iran actually didn't keep all of its fissile material in one place, or that they might have moved it. It'd be pretty dumb to keep it all in one place, right? So I'm willing to believe that it might have been moved because everybody knew it was a target, and there's no need then to rush and declare victory. I always try to err on the side of caution. There's no microwave version of baking this cake. Israel, as it stands, wants Iran to forego all nuclear enrichment capabilities going forward. Do you think this regime will go for that? I don't think so. To my last point, why would Iran need to agree to that if it in fact has been obliterated? I'm just asking questions because Rome wasn't built in a day, and Iran's hatred for Israel and the U.S. did not end in a day. But if there's going to be some modern agreement, Iran has to get something if they're going to give up some measure of everything. Whatever that is, they need to get something. Again, this is all assuming the other bad actors in the region don't interfere. This is assuming Iran wants peace with Israel. That's a big assumption. And Israel wants peace with Iran. Another big assumption. Iran doesn't go from wanting to annihilate Israel on Thursday to willing to negotiate in good faith on Monday. I know. Call me Debbie Downer, but I remember the Israel/Egypt peace treaty of 1979. There's that year again, 1979. Egypt and Israel signed a treaty to normalize relations, making Egypt the first Middle Eastern country to recognize Israel. and according to some historians, gave momentum to the coming Iranian revolution later that year, 1979. The same revolution which led to the Muslim theocratic state we're dealing with today. All of that was a form of blowback. All of this is very complex and is not something a post on social media can dictate. The Muslim nations today largely consider the treaty a stab in the back to them by allowing more interference from the U.S. and support of Israel. Sounds like the past is happening again. Sounds like history is repeating itself. Well, because of that treaty, we've been dealing with the instability and hostility ever since. After a Middle East peace treaty, all of this was set into motion. Al-Qaeda rose out of our involvement in Kuwait in 91. That didn't come back around until 9/11. We went into Afghanistan in 2001. The Taliban was in control then. We left in 2021. Say it with me. The Taliban is still in control there. Is Afghanistan any better today after the Afghanistan peace agreement of 2020? I can't find a lot of believers. The point is, peace is always a noble goal, but the unintended consequences are always there. Forced regime change isn't often the magic pill many think it is. And beyond getting to the actual agreement, all sides have to actually honor it. That means not pulling out of it 3 years later like we did with the JCPOA, the Iran deal. That means not tearing up NAFTA, renegotiating it, and then tearing it up again. America's word has to mean something too, or the other parties have no reason to negotiate in good faith or even honor the deal after the fact. So stop being in such a rush to declare victory when it comes to the Middle East. It may not be even before the end of the Trump presidency will we get a real sense of whether this moment means something, means nothing, or means everything. Because whatever happens between the U.S., Israel, and Iran will still have a ripple effect throughout the Middle East. And that will be beyond the control of what any president posts on social media. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. There are about 11 and a half months between now and the next mayoral election here. And if you just listen to KFI, you'd think everyone hates Karen Bass as a politician and as a person. I'm not exaggerating. If you just listen to KFI, you think everyone is of the same mind. But here's the reality. Despite her public issues, she still has a solid base of support, rightly or wrongly. Sometimes we get into these echo chamber silos and think that because the media we listen to, the media we watch, well, everybody must think the same way. KFI is real strong in Orange County. I don't need to tell you that. You know that. It's real strong in the county of Los Angeles, but it's not necessarily the loudest voice in the city of Los Angeles. Don't get me wrong. This station definitely has a sizable footprint. But if you live in the city of Los Angeles and talk to Los Angeles voters, it's just a different vantage point, different viewpoint. There's watching LA on TV like the protests. There's hearing coverage of LA on the radio like the protests. But that's not the same as having a presence inside its borders on a day-to-day basis, walking the neighborhoods, driving the neighborhoods, talking to people who live there. And as I said at the top, there are about 11 and a half months between now and the next mayoral election, June 2nd, 2026. And no doubt, Mayor Bass catches hell in a media sense every single day. A lot of it deservedly so, in my estimation. But if the two elections of Donald Trump should have taught you and me anything, don't confuse media coverage and polls with what people on the ground, actual voters, value. And there's this. She's still, as of this moment, and I confirmed it with Tawala earlier in the show, she's still at this moment the only real candidate running in the election. 11 and a half months out. You can't replace someone. You can't kick out the Democrats if there's no alternative. You don't get to call the voters for LA mayor, which most people listening are not. You don't get to call the voters for LA mayor dumb or stupid. when there's no alternative. And I'm going to keep banging this drum. Even still, there is no Republican in the race. You can't hope for people to vote for a different direction, a different person, a different party, a Republican, when the party is neither putting forth a candidate nor developing one right now. You can't just jump in the race and nobody knows who that person is. You have to develop candidates. Here's a comparison point. Rick Caruso got in the race 9 months out back in 2022. Got in February. The election was in November. He almost won. So it's not too late in a calendar sense. We're more than 9 months out. But still, he's not a Republican in terms of party registration or fidelity, and he's still not in the race. Yes, Rick Caruso used to be a Republican and runs to the right of Karen Bass politically, but he'll never be viewed as a true Democrat. No more, let me use this as a comparison point. No more than Gavin Newsom would be reviewed as a Republican if he changed his party affiliation and ran for president. No more than former Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who was previously a Democrat while sheriff, but was not perceived as one per his politics. Perception matters. Villanueva, as a matter of fact, did recently change his affiliation to Republican, and it probably better suits him and his perception. But Rick Caruso tried to change his party affiliation specifically to run for mayor. He did so probably for a lot of reasons. He did so knowing that the majority of voters in LA are registered Democrats, and a Democratic candidate would have an easier path than a Republican. No one would dispute that. But the flip side is that a newly minted Dem doesn't get state party support. And yes, parties play favorites. Rick Caruso spent $104 million of his own money in the hopes of making up for his late party switch. Still wasn't enough. So just having the D next to your name is not enough. Sometimes it's just evident that complaining about LA is a lot more fun than anything. Most people don't live in the city, don't have any real connection to the city, and aren't doing anything for the city. I know. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the other folks. But if the Republican Party were serious, and I don't think they are, but if they were serious, they would have been developing candidates to run in the race for mayor. Karen Bass has never been more vulnerable. There would be names on the tip of our tongue right now that would be getting in the race right about now. Not one Republican is presently even waiting in the wings. If this holds true, Bass, regardless of what you may think of her record, whatever, she will become mayor again. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you want. Because it makes more fun for you and me to complain about stuff having nothing to do with you specifically. I'm going to keep beating this dead horse until it turns to glue. I get it. Complaining is fun. Not productive, but it's sure as hell fun. I like complaining too. I'm not going to be hypocritical. Sometimes it's better to just complain and point. But also, I've lived in the city of Los Angeles for the bulk of my life. I'm pretty sure I can say I know the city from end to end as well as anyone. That's what 55 years has earned me. I've come by it honestly. From Bradley to Reardon to Hahn to Villaraigosa to Garcetti and now to Bass. I know the city top to bottom. But if the goal is better or different leadership, then there has to be competition. And you're not going to get that from inside the Democratic Party against an incumbent mayor. You never will. If you don't field a candidate, Republicans, you don't get to claim you're serious. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. If you know me, you know I love politics. It's my jam, as they say. I eat it, live it, study it every single day. And that's different from just talking about it. That's different from arguing with people on social media as a hobby. I mean, I really, really study. Because when you do, you better understand the why. Not discussing things only in terms of what you like, who you want to win elections, not your personal preferences, but why things happen. History, perspective, all that nerdy stuff. By now, or very soon from now, you'll know the name of Zoran Mondani. He just won the Democratic open primary for mayor of New York. He's 33. He's a Muslim. Oh, my Allah. He's a naturalized citizen. Clutch those immigration pearls. And he's a self-described democratic socialist. Perish the thought. He is a woke triple threat. As I said, he's a democratic socialist, which is not the same as a communist or the same as a conventional socialist, but it's not for me to explain. He can sort that out for you. Weirdly, though, a lot of America has gone apoplectic over this guy, just mad at the idea that he's the new mayor of New York City. No, he's not. He just won the Democratic primary. Nothing more. Also, weirdly, many of us who aren't Democrats, like me, aren't New Yorkers, like me, have so much to say about a Democratic primary on the other side of the country. But let's look at how politics works. Mamdani's chief competition in the primary was the former New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, who was last seen resigning in disgrace after multiple sexual harassment allegations and arguably, depending on whom you ask, arguably mismanaging the state COVID pandemic response, especially in the city of New York. Even predecessor, Eliot Spitzer, who also resigned as governor, but for having a hooker fetish, he had more positive name recognition than Cuomo. Nobody blamed Eliot Spitzer for possibly killing elderly people in nursing homes during a pandemic. Then there's that. And then there's this. 38% of New York's residents are immigrants. 19% of them are registered voters. Mamdani put in the work on the ground, going door to door, himself personally, to turn out the vote. Cuomo did not. Mamdani used social media, especially TikTok, to get out his message, appealing to a younger voting base. Cuomo did not. If you're shocked that the Muslim naturalized citizen from Uganda and democratic socialist beat the old establishment guy who is linked to killing old people in nursing homes, you're just not paying attention to the details. Again, this was just the primary. In the general election, get this, he'll be facing off against former New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is now running as an independent. If you didn't know, Adams left the Democratic Party recently. But that's not what is going to hurt him. The fact, if not for a Trump pardon, Eric Adams would be in a federal prison right now serving a decades-long sentence. That is the problem. He probably doesn't stand a real good chance either. He was grossly unpopular, still is, even before he was indicted and arrested. Cuomo said he might also consider running in the general as an independent. But that doesn't wipe away the sexual harassment or the dead people in a nursing home. The Republican winner of the New York City primary just a few days ago, Curtis Sliwa. Yes, the radio host and former Guardian Angels leader. New Yorkers hate him. They hate him. Here's something else to remember. New York is 70% registered Democrat. 70%. And this conversation is not unlike what I said about here in Los Angeles. The Republicans are throwing out a massively unpopular radio host as their best foot forward. Sliwa ran unopposed in the primary, the grossly unpopular, unqualified radio host. It's like here in LA, the Republicans aren't even trying. So yeah, Zoran Mamdani has a good chance to win if you're actually paying attention to the particulars. But what I have to take issue with, and here's the real takeaway before we go, is when you have people such as Congressman Andy Ogles, who wrote to the Department of Justice seeking an investigation into Mamdani's citizenship, alleging that he concealed his support for terrorism. Also calling him, quote unquote, Little Muhammad, even openly calling for his deportation, an American citizen. Ogles is a Tennessee congressman. Tennessee! Worried about the Democratic primary in the New York City mayoral race? Not New York's Elise Stefanik, but the Tennessee congressman. Now, I don't know about you. When you're calling him Little Muhammad and calling for him to be deported as an American citizen, that gives me the sense that this is not about politics, or at least the complaint isn't, that it's not about legal immigration because he's a naturalized citizen. And I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm not sure what it is. It's not his politics. It's not about legal immigration. It's something else. I wonder what it is. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
We've all done it. You see a headline but don't have time to read the whole story, or there's so much news you're not sure what is worth your time. I'm Colby Ekowitz, co-host of Post Reports, the weekday afternoon podcast from The Washington Post. Post Reports brings you what's relevant and revealing. Breaking stories, politics, wellness, culture. Each episode goes beyond a headline for the context you need. Find Post Reports now, wherever you're listening.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest. Building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app,